Hello, boys and girls. Today we are starting a series on the subject of guerrilla warfare. Most of my channel topics up to this point have been a distillation of my infantry knowledge, trying to take basic infantrymanship, demilitary acronym it, and explain it in a way that applies to the American citizen in the years of the 2020s and onward. I have given you all of that information. Not to say that there isn't a single subject that I have, forgotten or left out that I could cover, and not to say that I won't ever revisit the subjects that I already have covered in a different light or in better detail or better cinematic production perhaps in the future, because I'm sure I will. But my original mission statement of teach the American people how to be basic infantrymen, give them access to that information in a digestible and understandable format. I have done that. So now we will transition, and most of my videos will be about adjacent or advanced topics, not basic infantrymanship, but topics adjacent to that or the next level of that. And our first series of those subjects will be guerrilla warfare, which would be an adjacent to basic infantry topics. All right. Now, a quick disclaimer, because I must. And clarification is always good. I typed this out, and we'll see if I end up reading verbatim from it or not. My purpose, in case you haven't gathered it, even though I have videos going over it, is to ensure the survival of the West and its principles as we deal with this period of struggle and transition. I don't know what will happen in the next 50 years. I don't know what our economic system will be, what our country will be, what our political system will be. I would imagine possibly things we don't even have names for right now yet, that have never been tried before, just like when America was tried, its stuff had never really been tried before in that way. But whenever that happens, and whenever we get to the other side of all this, whatever all this is, I want Western principles to maintain, to be adhered to be a major part of it. And a central principle, arguably the central principle of the West, is individuals having martial ability. We can see this, all the way from the Aryan and Norse war tribes, war bands, the Greek and Roman citizen armies, and the longbowmen of medieval Britain. I also have a video pretty much covering this, talking about the purpose of the Second Amendment and where its history and culture comes from. So just like I, in my perfect world, would not have any restrictions on the Second Amendment in as far as firearms or equipment, what you can physically, tangibly own, I would also not place any restrictions on the knowledge a man has access to, or he may take it upon himself to learn. And it is a core and fundamental belief of mine that a properly armed population will be able to deal with any evil, even if it is hardened. So, in other words, if everybody and their grandma got guns and know how to use them, I ain't worried about no motherfucking banditos. Feel me, cuz? To clarify, while we discuss these topics of guerrilla warfare, I do not think it is time to do anything as far as what we're discussing. This is not N-O-T, not a call to action. This is not a call to action. Not a call to action. As the threats against our culture and its freedoms increase, so must the population's willingness to loudly display those freedoms also increase, right? As they threaten to take it, we must display that we have it. The goal ultimately is that we can protect our freedom and achieve peace through strength. For if whoever they are, if they know that we can fight, perhaps they will choose not to fight us, which would be the choice I hope they take. End of disclaimer. Bom, 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 bom. Back to education time. Get your notes out, kids. All right, so to give some context of what the fuck even guerrilla warfare is and what we're talking about exactly, I'm going to outline what me and my expertise here has written down with zero reference to the rest of the internet and reality, the different types of warfare are. Okay, we have attrition warfare, we have maneuver warfare, we have guerrilla warfare, and then we have terrorism. We will be discussing guerrilla warfare, not terrorism, not attrition or maneuver warfare. And now I will give a brief explanation of what those are, right? Attrition warfare is World War I or Russia and Ukraine right now style, where two militaries just smash into each other with the hopes of basically destroying enough destroying enough men and equipment from one side that they no longer have the capability to wage warfare, right? We killed all your dudes, so you can't fucking fight us anymore. Blew all your tanks up, shot all your planes down, killed all your guys, we win. And typically this type of warfare is fought when you have a land dispute, right? So you're basically playing a game of King of the Hill for keeps. And it often devolves into trench warfare, as we can see today and in history. The way that we ended maneuver warfare, blah, blah, blah. God damn, dude. It's late, so I apologize. It's 3:30 right now, so deal with me and my spiraling mind as I try to teach you these lessons on combat and violence. The answer to attrition warfare was maneuver warfare. Okay, so rather than just clashing and clashing and clashing and clashing, we were like, what if we get guys to go around that somehow to like the factory where they build the tanks and the oil refinery where they make the gasoline, and we like blow those things up or take control of those places so they can't produce them anymore. And then what if we go to like the Capitol building where all the communication centers are, and they send out all of the command, all the commands, and we take that over so that they don't have any leadership anymore, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we don't even have to necessarily smash into their frontline infantry tank units endlessly. We just have to destroy or control all of their means to conduct warfare or society, and then now we control your country. And you can do this if you get good at it rather quickly, which is how America fights its wars. That's why we can do stuff like topple Iraq in a matter of, a couple weeks or whatever the fuck it was. Lickety fucking split. Which, not that Iraq had any chance of defeating us, but the fact that we can do it with that speed was pretty impressive, right? And that's how we didn't get on a fucking line and walk across Iraq and then shoot every Iraqi that shot at us until we made it to the other side and said, clear. We dropped air troops in, and we came in from fucking here, and we came in from fucking here, and we seized all of their means of producing and conducting warfare, and then they toppled as a country because they were no longer able to conduct business as a country. Wonderful. Once that happens to you, once you are tyrannically taken over in your domestic home, or you are invaded by a foreign force and they conduct maneuver warfare and topple your government and then occupy you afterwards, you then are forced to fight a guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare is asymmetrical tactics, meaning that they're not fair and not normal, and they are fought by a defending force, and they are targeted against typically the logistical terrain of the military force, right? So it's a gray area. It's not inherently military. It's also not inherently civilian. the things that the military is using, the invading force is using to feed itself, to communicate, to get its ammunition to it, to get its fuel to it, etc., etc. You're going to attack those things and destroy their ability to easily occupy that area, and you are going to make warfare costly for them, right? You're going to blow up their $100 million tank with a $1,000 homemade device. You are going to make war psychologically costly on the soldiers and their civilian population back home, right? Anytime the troops try to move about, they're going to get shot at, get sniped at a little bit. And though this largely is ineffective as far as from a combative, like you're not really taking ground, you're not really even stacking a bunch of enemy casualties, you are just harassing the enemy. It's just harassment. You're just going, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, all day, every day, nonstop, first year, second year, fifth year, 10th year. And eventually they're just going to get fucking tired of it. And they're going to say, you know what? I don't even fucking care anymore. I'm going home. Goodbye. And they will leave, which is what America does every time. So that's how guerrilla warfare, right? So it is a defensive war waged by an occupied people. They could be domestically or foreignly occupied against a tyrannical force that they do not like, the population does not want. And they fight it asymmetrically, right? The goal is to make the war financially and psychologically too costly for the invading force, for the tyrannical force. All right. Lastly, and what we are not talking about and is different than guerrilla warfare, is terrorism. Terrorism is violence conducted almost exclusively on civilian targets that have no military relevance. In fact, you don't want them. If you're a terrorist, you don't want your targets ideally to have hardly any military relevance. The less military relevance, the better. And the point is to strike fear into the civilian population and get them to demand some political change from their political class. That's what the point of terrorism is, right? So Palestine does terrorism on Israel in hopes that the Israeli people will get upset and be like, give them what they want so we stop having to deal with this terrorism, for example. That's a hyper oversimplification, and I'm not taking any sides on that situation. I'm just trying to teach a lesson about what and why terrorism is. Wonderful. All right. So, a overview of how we conduct guerrilla warfare and what that is, and kind of giving you a brief look at some of the videos that are going to be coming out soon. Let us talk line item by line item. Right. First, we have organization and operational security, OPSEC. Okay. Obviously, you're the little guy fighting the big guy. The big guy's got more tech. He's got more cameras, more spies, more stuff like that. So you have to be very sneaky with your operations. Okay, there's lots of different ways. You could go total decentralized, where you don't even, like, the command element doesn't even have any direct contact with its troops, or even know how many troops it has, or what its troops are like, or any of that, right? You would just communicate through in real life. A lot of times they communicate through social media, but you could also come up with more creative ways, right? Spray painting messages through graffiti, or distributing pamphlets or whatever, and basically just saying, like, oh geez, it would be like the left right now is going, oh geez, it would be a shame if ICE convoys got jammed up, people ran into them, and they had, couldn't get to where they were going, and then now a bunch of random people are ramming ICE convoys. Okay, that's a guerrilla warfare tactic. That's guerrilla warfare. That's hyper decentralized organization for guerrilla warfare. They don't know. Maybe nobody listens to it. They don't even know. They don't know if they have 1,000 people, 100 people, 10 people, no people, who the people are, how far they're going to take it out. They're just saying, somebody should do this. and then they're just letting individuals do that, and then that protects everybody from being caught, right? Because if one of your troops, as it are, get busted by the police, by the bad guys, they literally don't know anybody else. They cannot rat on anybody because they don't know anybody. They just took it upon themselves to be a decentralized lone wolf in a part of this, amalgamous, faceless entity that is. More commonly, you have levels of decentralization where it's like, whatever it is, 2 or 3 or 4 guys know each other, and then they know a guy that kind of gives them loose directives, and then that guy that's giving them loose directives, he knows 3 or 4 groups of 3 or 4 dudes, and then he's getting loose directives from a guy that knows 3 or 4 dudes like him, and so on and so forth up the food chain, right? The Christmas tree food chain. So that way, if one guy gets caught, there is a chance to go all the way up the chain, but it's reduced. It's not like every foot soldier knows every fucking guy 3 levels up, right? You only know one guy that's 1 level above you, and a couple dudes that are at your level. So one dude can't rat and bust the whole organization. He can just get his little wing compromised. Wonderful. Target selection. Next bulletin point. Target selection. You don't want to typically fight the fighters for multiple reasons. A, they're going to be the hardest to fight and most likely to kill you, and keeping yourself alive as a guerrilla fighter is a huge part of it, right? It's better to lose the fight or don't do the fight and you live than it is to try and fight harder and then die and then never be able to fight again as a guerrilla fighter. You're fighting a series of losing battles. So it's about the longevity of being able to continue to fight those losing battles, not risking your ass trying to win any of them. Okay, so target selection, don't fight the fighters. Also, it's sad or whatever. Nobody wants to get shot. Nobody wants their father or their son to get shot. But, a report that an infantry squad took 5 casualties is a lot less tragic than hearing a bulk fuel convoy got blown the fuck up and took 5 casualties, people that were never expecting combat. It's a lot more damaging on the population to stomach. Also, from a like a logistical standpoint and a big picture standpoint, it's doing more damage, right? If you blow up that fuel convoy, then not only does that infantry squad, but that whole infantry platoon or possibly company gets fuel. You do that over and over again, now they're going to have to fly the fuel in instead of truck it in. Now the fuel costs them 10 times as much to move around. You do that everywhere, you just 10x the cost of the war for that enemy. Just as a quick, brief example, right? So yeah, does it suck to have some of your infantry dudes get shot and die and have to replace them, and is that costly? Yes. Is it much more costly to rapidly deteriorate or destroy the logistical infrastructure? Yes, you're causing way more damage. So the communications network, the food, the water, the fuel, the electricity, shoot at that shit. All right. The operations themselves are going to be stuff like sabotage, harassing fire, ambushes, and possibly even some select assassinations. You are going to film a lot of these operations you do for the sake of using those for propaganda, right? In the name of recruiting people, right? Those are 2 line items themselves, propaganda and recruitment, okay? Again, this is about longevity. So we might be fighting this fight so long that not only are we going to lose fighters to fighting and have to replace them, dudes might just like fucking age out. Like we might be fighting this war for 20, 30, 50 years, depending on how determined our occupying force is. So we're going to have to continue to recruit the next generation of guerrilla warfighters. And in order to recruit them, we're going to need propaganda. So while we're on operation, we need to be generating this propaganda. And last, but definitely not least, funding these operations / sustainment, right? If we're talking about conventional light infantry warfare sustainment is your rucksack or your butt pack and keeping an extra change of socks and all that. Now we're transitioning to how are we buying all of this gunpowder and weaponry and explosives and doing it in a way that the occupying force that's keeping a watchful eye over everything doesn't know about it. Again, this is going to be METTC driven, and when we talk about this specifically, we'll go into a lot of detail on all the different possibilities, but anywhere from doing some sort of organized criminal activity to large-scale fund fighters, right? And remember, boys and girls, illegal does not always mean immoral. Just because Uncle Sam says don't do it doesn't mean that it is inherently evil to do that thing. So you might be even doing a good thing that is enabling you to generate income in a criminal way. Or this also could just mean, depending on the level of operation intensity, this could just be you maintaining a 9 to 5. You know, instead of you and your group of boys that goes out and rucks every month, now you and your group of boys goes out and does a harassing fire or a sabotage every month. And other than that one change of what you are doing on that one Thursday evening, everything else in your life stays the same. So your sustainment is the fact that you go to fucking work and buy your shit. Also, the community likely will be involved, depending on the exact, greater scenario. The level of involvement will change, but having grandma drive and drop off your fucking ammo in the forest for you, or ferry you through the checkpoint, having Farmer Bill let you slaughter a hog and give you the beef for free because he supports the cause, having your old boy who runs an ammunition remanufacturing shop give you fucking ammo off the books because he supports the cause. That type of shit is definitely going to be fucking high key important. All right, coming up on 25 minutes here, so I think that will do us. That is a brief overview of guerrilla warfare, and we will be covering those subjects in greater detail in the coming days and weeks. See you boys and girls on the next one.